Melissa, thank you. Well, when it comes to money know-how, teenagers' expertise is often limited. But teaching your teens how to manage money can actually help them shape their future choices.
And here were some lessons on money management for teens before they head to college is Roy Paul, Executive Director of Sensibility. Good morning, Roy.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
Sensibility.
We like it too.
Let's just talk about the group it's a nonprofit, and you actually go to schools and teach kids about finance. And you started with, it was two business students from Harvard.
Right. They were students at Harvard Business School, and despite the fact that they had all the knowledge that Harvard Business School students have, they were still struggling with their personal finances. So while they were getting that situated, they said, wait a second, we have all of this knowledge and expertise, we should give back. And then that birthed Sensibility some 14 years ago.
And so you have some great tips today that we're going to talk about. First of all, it's never too soon to start saving.
This is important because in this country, we don't save very well. 42% of Americans don't have a budget. And so we teach the 50-30-20 rule. 50% of your expenses should be on things that you absolutely need, your rent, your food. 30% on wants, and then 20% just take it and save it, don't touch it. And that is a fortunate lesson for a lot of people who don't have habits of saving. They can take that 20% and don't touch it.
And when you say never too soon to start, we're talking even young kids you can teach them about.
Absolutely, and allowance is a great way to do that. If you have,
which is so funny because I was asking about that. I do not give Rosie allowance. I always thought, why should I give her money for her jobs? But you're saying it's a good idea.
It's a great idea, especially if it's a realistic allowance, right? You have a lot of parents who want to teach a lesson to Johnny or Susan, and they say, here's $5, $10 if you go and take out the garbage. But most teenagers can't do a lot with a little, right? So if they want to go out to shopping with their friends, or what kind of clothing are they buying, how much does it cost, and make the allowance realistic so that if you take it away to punish them, they actually miss it. They want to do better so they can take that money and go spend it.
The next tip is the financial impact. This is so important, I think, the financial impacts of student loans. Because a lot of times people don't think about what they're going to have to be paying off years after they graduate from college.
This is a sticking point for me because a lot of our young people that we teach are in low and moderate income communities, and so they don't have a lot of money. And it's very legal in this country for colleges to tell teenagers that they can take out $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year in loans, and they really don't have a way of paying it back. And so I always tell young people, before you sign the dotted line for student loans, know what you're actually going to pay back every month when you graduate. And that's a question a lot of young people don't know. And it's very important because it puts you in immediate debt right out of college, and you really don't have a realistic way of paying it back. And so some people say, well, what do I do as an alternative? You don't have to go to a $50,000 school if you can't afford it. There's community college, there's state schools, city university schools, and they're all wonderful places to go.
All right, we've been talking about budgeting. It's so important to develop a budget.
Yes. I was at an event and a few students raised their hand and they said, how do you create a budget? And I said, Google it, right? If you don't know something, Google it. But it's important because 42% of Americans don't have a budget. That's almost half the people around this country who money is coming in, money is going out, and they're not really keeping track of it. And that's very dangerous, especially when it goes back to needs versus wants and things that you absolutely have to buy. If you don't know what you're tracking and how you're going to spend it, then you really don't know what you're doing with your money.
And then good versus bad use of credit. This is not just teens, this is people across the spectrum.
Very true.
We hear that all the time with people who hear about our principles and they go, I can use this now, I'm like 50 years old. And I say, yes, I know, it's important. But when it comes to credit, there are good uses and bad uses of credit, right? You have a 14, 15-year-old who maybe or maybe should not have a credit card. That's debatable based on the parent. But if they have one, what do you put on it? And you don't take $300 sneakers and put it on a credit card if you don't have the money. If it's not a necessity, don't put it on the credit card. You have to learn how to be disciplined about your money so that you have it when you get older for retirement and other things.
Good advice. Rosie's going to get all this information when I get home. Thank you so much for being here.
We appreciate it,
This was a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
And all of this great advice will be on our website at cbsnewyork.com.
We'll be right back.